In fact, business charges has already been rebutted by the MEA, and they have pointed out that probably European Union and US, they are importing more than what India is importing from Russia. And even the issue of tariff, he has to look into what is the applied weighted tariff rather than the average tariff. Average tariff of India is around 15.98%. The weighted average tariff, which is a more clear indicator, is just 4.6%. The threat of penalty he has already raised, and that's why we have to see how much is the penalty which he will imposing that. Probably these kind of statements they are vitiating the atmosphere for the negotiator. As we all know that sixth round of discussion will start in the second half of August. These are the challenging time for Indian exporters. Let us see what is the additional tariff we further impose so that industry can calculate, and then we will take a call whether we want to export to the US or we will look for some alternative markets. I think if you recall that the US sanction on Russia was with regard to the oil, if it is imported above $60 a barrel, India has not violated that, and therefore the very fact now he's raising that why India is dealing with Russia is something which has come off the cuff. He has not been able to settle his score with Russia, and that's why he has brought India into the controversy. But I'm pretty sure Indian government is moving in a very balanced manner. They will look into the national interest, and we will definitely partner with some of the trusted partners, and we will try to work on their strategic relationship at the same time. As a sovereign country, India has made it very clear that we will decide what is best for the country. Definitely, since very high tariff has already been imposed on India, and these tariffs are set to further move with the threat which has come today. And when we are looking into our competitor in South Asia and Southeast Asia, they will be at relatively lower tariff. So in many of the segments where we are competing with the countries, particularly in sectors like apparel, textile, or footwear sector, there will be some export loss into these markets. We have to see to what extent we can diversify into other markets to offset these losses. Though, of course, in the short term, it may not be possible, but in medium to long term, we will be looking into that strategy very closely. It can be a kind of negotiating posture by the US president. He wants to keep duty very high and probably forcing India to concede much, but India has made it very clear that some of the sectors like agriculture and dairy are non-negotiable because they are more concerned with the livelihood of the people. But at the same time, we have to see in which way the talks move. If the US team is visiting India in the second half, probably the negotiator will continue to talk to them. Otherwise, I think in the given scenario where threat after threats are being shown by the US president, probably we have to revisit the strategy of the BTA. Most of the tariff which is imposing on India will be an administrative tariff which will be temporary in nature, wherever whatever concession we are offering in the form of BTA will be something which will be permanent in nature. Even if we conclude the BTA and get 0 or 10% duty, but if these kinds of penalties are imposed on India, that will nullify the advantage of duty which we'll get through the BTA. If you look into the big picture, out of my export of around $440 billion, roughly 90 billion is to the US. Out of that, roughly 42 billion is unaffected by the reciprocal tariff because there is either the standard tariff of 50% like steel, aluminum, copper, or they are exempted like pharma and other. So we are concerned with this export of $48 billion. Some of that will definitely continue, but whatever little loss happens, that probably we have to live with that in the short term. But looking into the Indian economy, that will not be even 0.5% of the GDP. We have a very vibrant domestic market also. Some of that will move to the domestic market as well. So we are not worried. Of course, this is a cause of concern for all of us because these segments are important segment for contributing to the job growth also into the country. In fact, we are requesting the government to come forward to provide some support to the industry, at least in the short term till the BTA is operationalized. Once the BTA is in place, probably Indian exporter will be able to compete with these kinds of tariff. And a number of suggestions have been made. Some of them are with regard to providing some of the support like interest equalization scheme, aggressive marketing front, something on the lines of focus market scheme where some support is given in the form of fiscal incentive to the export sector for a limited period to US is also being proposed, and we look forward for a very quick reaction or the action from the government side so that whatever orders they are being negotiated at this point of time, particularly for the apparel and footwear sector where these are seasonal in nature, they can be concluded quickly.